Beyond the 90 days. Mitch says "I do" again in a stunning Nigerian celebration. It had been years since Mitch's world went silent. Once he was a man full of laughter, dreams, and love, but everything changed when his wife Sarah passed away. She was the center of his life, and when she was gone, so was his will to live. The people who knew him said Mitch had turned into a shadow of his old self. His smile disappeared, his home felt cold, and even his faith began to fade. Every evening he would sit alone with Sarah's old letters. Letters filled with love, promises, and the hope that they would always be together. One line always stayed in his heart. "If love is real, it finds you again someday." But to Mitch, those words had lost their meaning. He couldn't imagine love ever finding him again. Years passed quietly. Friends moved on, life went forward, but Mitch stayed behind, stuck between memory and pain. And then, when he least expected it, fate took him far from home. A project led him to Nigeria. A land full of color, music, and faith. A land where people smiled even when life was hard. Mitch didn't know that this place would slowly bring light back into his world. In that foreign land, he met Amara. She was not someone extraordinary by status, but by heart. A schoolteacher, simple and kind, who carried warmth in her smile. The first time they spoke, it wasn't about love. It was about life, hope, and faith. Amara talked about the beauty of starting again. About how pain doesn't always mean the end of love. Sometimes it means love is changing its form. For Mitch, those words felt like a quiet knock on a locked door inside him. He didn't know what to say, but he knew something had shifted. Days turned into weeks, and their connection grew stronger. Amara never tried to fix his pain. She simply stood beside it, without judgment, without questions. That was all Mitch needed, someone who could see him, not his wounds. Slowly, laughter returned. Mitch began to smile again, to care about small things. The sound of rain, the morning sky, the music children played in the street. He didn't realize it, but love was quietly finding him again. Just like Sarah once wrote, it wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about learning to breathe again. And as the sunsets of Nigeria painted the sky in gold and red, Mitch found himself whispering something he never thought he would say again. Maybe love was never gone. It was just waiting for me to be ready. When the news of Mitch's decision to remarry reached his family back home, silence spread through the house. For a long time, no one said a word. It was as if the air had turned heavier, filled with confusion, disbelief, and a quiet pain that no one could name. His mother, who had always carried Sarah's photo beside her bed, sat down slowly and whispered, "Already? After all these years, he wants to marry again." To her, Sarah wasn't just Mitch's wife. She had become a part of their family's heartbeat. Losing her had been like losing a daughter. And now the thought of Mitch marrying someone else, someone they had never met, felt like a betrayal to that memory. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know how long Mitch had lived in darkness, how many nights he had sat awake whispering to Sarah's picture, asking for peace. They didn't see the way Amara had quietly helped him rediscover life, faith, and the will to live again. Still, judgment began to grow. Some relatives said he was moving too fast. Others accused Amara of having hidden intentions. "She's from another country," one cousin said. "What if she's using him for a visa?" Rumors began to spread, and whispers turned into harsh opinions. Everyone had something to say except Mitch, who chose silence over argument. Inside, however, he was breaking. He never wanted to hurt anyone. He had loved Sarah deeply, but he had also promised her something long ago, that he would never let grief destroy him. And when he met Amara, it wasn't to replace what he lost. It was to remember what it felt like to be alive again. In his heart, Mitch knew love doesn't erase the past. It teaches you how to carry it. But explaining that to people who only saw the surface was almost impossible. One night, his sister called him. Her voice trembled as she said, "You really think you can love again, Mitch? After everything?" Mitch took a long breath and replied softly, "I don't think, I just know. Because love didn't die with Sarah. It waited patiently until I was strong enough to see it again." After that call, he sat alone in his small room in Nigeria. The sounds of distant drums echoed outside. He looked at Sarah's photo, the one he always kept on his desk, and said quietly, "You told me once that love would find me again someday. Maybe this is what you meant." The pain of being misunderstood was heavy, but somewhere deep inside there was peace. the kind of peace that comes when you know your heart is no longer lost. Even though his family was against him, Mitch decided to follow what he believed was right. He wasn't chasing a new life, he was honoring a promise to live again. The days leading up to the wedding were quiet but heavy, not with excitement but with emotion. Mitch had never imagined he would stand at this point again, ready to promise love and life to someone new. Nigeria's sun glowed brighter that week, as if the world itself wanted him to start over. But deep inside he was still torn between two worlds, the past he could never forget, and the future he was learning to trust. In the small Nigerian town where Amara lived, preparations began slowly. The women from her community decorated the church with flowers, bright fabrics, and simple candles. Amara's laughter filled the air as she helped them, but even in her joy there was something fragile. A quiet fear of the storm Mitch was facing because of her. She knew his family didn't accept her yet. She knew he was standing alone. Sometimes she would look at him and say softly, "You don't have to do this for me." But Mitch would simply smile and shake his head. He didn't speak much those days, but everything about him showed calm determination, the kind that comes only from love that has been tested by pain. Each night, Mitch sat on the porch of the guest house, writing small notes that he never sent. Notes to his mother, to his late wife Sarah, to himself. He wrote about forgiveness, about letting go, about finding beauty again in broken things. He didn't know if anyone would ever read them, but the act of writing made him feel whole. The world outside continued to move as if nothing had changed, but for Mitch every detail felt meaningful. The sound of children playing near the church, the smell of food being cooked for the ceremony, the music rehearsals at dusk. All of it reminded him that life, no matter how painful, always finds a way to begin again. Yet late at night doubts crept in. What if everyone was right? What if love this time wasn't real? What if Amara was too good to be true? But then he would remember her eyes, full of honesty, full of kindness. She had never asked for money, never asked for promises. All she wanted was truth. In one quiet moment Mitch stood outside, looking at the night sky, endless and deep, filled with stars that felt like distant souls watching. He whispered to himself, "Sarah, if you can hear me, I hope you understand. I'm not replacing you. I'm keeping my heart alive because of you." He knew that grief had shaped him, but it didn't have to define him. He had learned that love isn't about holding on to what's gone. It's about carrying it forward with grace. On the final evening before the wedding, Amara's family invited Mitch for dinner. There were songs, prayers, and blessings. They called him one of their own. For the first time in many years, Mitch felt something he had forgotten: belonging. And as the night ended, he realized something simple but powerful. Love doesn't ask for approval. It only asks for courage. And the next morning, he would need all the courage he had left. The morning of the wedding arrived with a stillness that felt sacred. The sun rose slowly over the quiet town, painting the sky in soft shades of gold and pink. Birds sang from distant trees, children ran in the streets, and the sound of drums began to echo faintly, a rhythm that carried both joy and reverence. Mitch stood in front of a mirror, wearing a simple white shirt. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the collar. It wasn't the nervousness of a man marrying for the first time. It was something deeper. It was the weight of memory, the quiet ache of everything he had lived through, and the knowledge that love was asking him once again to be brave. All around him, people were getting ready. Amara's family decorating the small church, neighbors bringing food, music playing softly in the distance. It wasn't a grand wedding. There were no chandeliers or expensive suits, but it was real. Everything about it was honest and filled with warmth. As the hours passed, the crowd began to gather. The small church glowed under the morning sun. Mitch took a deep breath before walking inside. His heart was heavy but steady. Somewhere inside him, he could still feel Sarah's presence, not as pain but as peace. He remembered her words written long ago. "If love is real, it finds you again someday." And now it had. When Amara entered, time seemed to slow. She walked in gracefully, dressed in a simple white gown with delicate lace, her eyes glistening with tears. There was no music at first, only silence. A silence that held every emotion, every memory, every second of pain and hope they had both lived. People said later that it was the quietest wedding they had ever attended, not because of sadness, but because everyone felt something too sacred to speak over. Mitch looked at Amara, and in that moment he realized how far he had come. He had walked through loss, loneliness, and fear. And yet here he was standing in the light of a new promise. As they exchanged vows, the church doors opened slightly and a soft wind moved through the room. Candles flickered, and some said it felt as if heaven itself had come to witness that moment. Mitch's voice trembled as he spoke, not because he was unsure, but because every word carried the truth of his journey, the journey of a man who had learned that love never dies, it only transforms. When the ceremony ended, the church filled with soft applause. Tears fell freely, from friends, from Amara's family, and even from strangers who had come only to watch. It wasn't a wedding of celebration alone. It was a wedding of healing. Outside, the sky began to darken with gentle clouds. Rain started to fall, not heavily, just enough to make the air cool and calm. Mitch and Amara stood together under the open sky, letting the drops fall on their hands. In silence, they smiled at each other. For Mitch, that rain wasn't a coincidence. It was a sign, a cleansing of the past, a blessing from above. Each raindrop felt like forgiveness, washing away years of grief, guilt, and fear. He looked at Amara and thought, maybe this is what love is meant to do. Not erase the pain, but teach us how to live with it gently. As the evening came, the village lights shimmered softly. People danced, children laughed, and for the first time in many years, Mitch joined them. His laughter returned, not the laughter of the man he used to be, but of the man he had become. That night, before sleeping, Mitch whispered a silent prayer. He didn't ask for anything. He only said thank you for the journey, for the pain that shaped him, and for the love that found him again. And though the world outside was quiet, inside Mitch's heart, a new story had begun. One built not on loss but on grace. Weeks passed after the wedding, but the feeling of that day stayed alive in Mitch's heart. Nigeria had given him something he thought he'd lost forever: peace. Not the kind that comes from forgetting, but the kind that comes from forgiving life itself. For the first time in years, his heart felt light. Still, one chapter of his story remained unfinished: his family. He knew he couldn't move forward until he faced them again. When Mitch finally returned home, the air felt different. The same streets, the same house, but everything seemed quieter, heavier. His mother was standing by the door, holding the same framed photo of Sarah she always kept near her. For a moment they just looked at each other. No words, no anger, only silence. The kind of silence that carries years of love, grief, and misunderstanding. Slowly, Mitch walked closer and said nothing. He didn't try to explain. Instead, he took his mother's hand and placed a small picture in it. A picture of him and Amara from the wedding day. In that photo, he wasn't the broken man she remembered. He was smiling, truly smiling. His mother looked at it for a long time. Her eyes softened. She didn't see a betrayal anymore. She saw her son, alive again, whole again. Tears filled her eyes and she whispered quietly, "She looks kind." In that moment, everything that had been dividing them melted away. There was no need for more words. Love had spoken for itself. As days went by, the rest of the family began to understand. One by one they reached out, not because they suddenly approved, but because they finally saw the truth. Mitch hadn't replaced Sarah. He had carried her love forward. He had found someone who reminded him that life still has beauty left to give. Sometimes people think moving on means forgetting, but Mitch showed them that moving on is actually remembering with peace instead of pain. He started writing again, this time not letters to the past, but stories about hope. His words touched many hearts online. Strangers who had lost someone, who had given up on happiness, who needed to believe that love can come twice in a lifetime. Mitch became a quiet symbol of healing. Not famous, not celebrated, but deeply human. And every night, before going to bed, he still took out that old letter from Sarah. He no longer cried when he read it. He simply smiled. Because now he understood what she truly meant when she wrote, "If love is real, it finds you again someday." It did. Not to replace her, but to remind him that love never dies. It only changes its shape, waiting patiently until our hearts are ready to feel it again. The story of Mitch wasn't about losing or finding someone. It was about learning that love is eternal. It simply chooses different hands to hold, different voices to whisper through, and different hearts to heal. And as the night sky spread over his home, Mitch whispered softly to both the women who had changed his life, "Thank you for teaching me how to love twice, once in sorrow and once in peace."